I hope this lecture can help you review our PowerPoint for the week, and you can take your own at your own pace. So for this week, we're going to look at starting curriculum outcomes. So first of all, talking about aims and goals, I think we have mentioned a bit about goals a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week. And let's start by asking the question, what is an aim or a goal? It refers basically to a statement of a general change which a program seeks to bring about in learners. And it is the main ideology of the curriculum, and it shows how the curriculum will seek to realize this ideology. Why do we need them? Why do we need these aims or goals? Well, they are designed to provide a definition of the purposes of a program. And it also provides us with guidelines for teachers, but also for learners and material writers. So you see, like, there is a triangle of different parties who are going to benefit from this statement of the guidelines. So not only teachers, but also learners and material writers. So it informs more than one party. At the same time, it helps provide a focus for instruction. So this is from the perspective of the teachers. So it gives you more focus for your teaching, for your instruction. Let's take an example. We take the example of the aims of teaching English at the primary level in Singapore. This is an example of a situation or a context I am a bit more familiar with. So here we have the statement of goals. It says our pupils learn English in order to do the following. 3 things. Number 1, to communicate effectively. Goal number 1, to acquire good reading habit, to understand, enjoy, and appreciate a wide range of texts, and so on. So you can see this example, I think, is provided for you in our textbook on page 121. Let me give you additional examples. We have another course. This is a business English course, and we have a couple of goals or aims. Number 1, why do we need to teach this course, or what is the outcome of the goal or the goals behind teaching this course is, number 1, to develop basic communication skills for use in business contexts. Okay. The second goal would be to learn how to participate in casual conversation. Okay. So that's another way of stating your goals. Now, we also need to find out what are the not so good examples of stating goals or objectives. So here are a few. One of them will be, for instance, to say students will learn about business letter writing in English. Or to state students will study listening skills. Number 3, students will practice composition skills in English. Or students will learn English for tourism. So they are taken from different courses, obviously. And we can ask the question here. If you want, you can pause the video and wonder, why are these not so good aims or goals? Maybe you can take a few notes and consider this question yourself. And then later on you can see the next slide. Well, the reason why they are not so good is that they don't focus on the changes that will result in the learners. Following instruction or following the course-long instruction or teaching, we need to see a change in the learners. So when you are developing your own aims or your own goals, you have to consider this point, that your statement of your aims has to focus or has to probably express a certain change in the learners that you want to see. So in fact, I was thinking also to have a follow-up with this activity, but we didn't have enough time last week because we had presentations scheduled. But we can focus on changing these into better aims or goals, right? So a better product would be, or a better attempt would be, to say the following. For instance, number 1 would be to change it into students will learn how to write effective business letters for use in the hotel and tourism industry. So we have here a product, something that we see an achievable, like we say, something that can be delivered to students, right? And there's a change following instruction. Number 2, students will learn how to listen effectively. So it's less general or broad and more specific. Students will learn how to listen effectively in conversational interactions, but also and how to develop better listening strategies. So that's quite clear. Okay. Number 3, you can check. In fact, the book has some suggestions for better statement of goals or aims. They are on page 122. Okay, so the basic idea here in a nutshell is to show a change. We need to notice a change, but in general, what we want to also keep is to make them still general, not too detailed. Okay, we don't want to have too many details. So we kind of strike a balance between too general and too specific. Okay, so you see there is a balance here between too general and too specific. Okay, that's the idea. All right. Now you notice that there is distinction between aims and objectives, and the objectives are also known as teaching objectives. So we usually accompany objectives with teaching objectives, and these refer to a statement of specific changes a program seeks to bring about and results from an analysis of the aim into its different components. Okay, so the characteristics of objectives, as we saw earlier for aims, here objectives describe what the aims seek to achieve in terms of smaller units of learning. Okay, smaller units of learning. So you can see here it's a natural follow-up to the aims. And they also provide a basis for the organization of teaching activities. Now we get into the hands-on, pragmatic or practical things that teachers are going to be implementing in the classroom. So organizing teaching activities is part of your objectives. And at the same time, they describe learning in terms of something observable behavior especially, and performance. Okay, so while aims show us a change, objectives show us specific observable behavior and performance. So it's different, right? It's even more specific. All right. This says what you're saying is that all behaviors must be observable and measurable. Interesting. Yes, that's exactly what we are saying here, that our objectives have to be observable. And what are the benefits or the advantages of describing our objectives for a course? Well, they definitely will help us because they will facilitate our planning of the course. And they also provide measurable outcomes and accountability. So for instance, if you are going to have a final report to make sure that you have delivered your stated objectives at the end of your course, you can in fact have a list of things to check, a checklist, to make sure that you have indeed achieved your measurable objectives. At the same time, not just for yourself, as a reflection of your course, people can also observe if there is a consistency between your objectives stated in your syllabus and your final achievable. So for external observation or review, for accountability, right? And they are also prescriptive. You know, prescriptive means something that must be done or should be done. Okay, they are not just descriptive, they are prescriptive. The students should be able to or should do this. Okay. Now, the characteristics of statement of objectives, it's a follow-up. Objectives describe a learning outcome. And it says, it's stated usually in the form of the following sentences. The student will have, or the student will learn how to. Okay, it's an outcome. Objectives should be consistent with the curriculum aims. I think we have stated this a little bit earlier. They have to be related. They have to be indexical with the curriculum aims. And number 3, objectives should be precise. Learn something for the purpose of doing something. Especially in the context of task-based language teaching, we learn something for the performance of a specific task. Even for EAP or ESP, we are not learning something disconnected from a specific objective or a purpose, right? There's particular purpose behind it. And number 4, objectives should be feasible. It has to be realistic. So hence the need to have a review process to see whether the objectives are a little bit too high and they have to be adjusted at some point. Okay, let's take some examples of aims and objectives from different courses. This one is a short English course for traveling and tourism, and you guys have presented several syllabi for traveling and tourism, so you can see whether you can also work on revising your aims and objectives for the syllabus. Alright, so number one, we start with the aim. The aim states the following. The aim of this course is to prepare students to communicate in English at a basic level for purposes of travel and tourism. So it shows there is a change from one situation to another, although it is not specific, right? But the objectives are even more precise. Look, we have objective number one. The student will have a reading vocabulary of 300 common words and abbreviations. So it's quite detailed. At this point, the objectives show us something prescriptive, like if you go to the pharmacy, you should be able to get this and this and this. And the doctor tells you, if you take this, you'll be able to do this. So this is a bit more detailed. It also articulates something which the teacher has to implement or has to achieve, both with the student, right? Like in coordination or in cooperation with the student. And if you want to look at the example of this course in more details, you can look at your books on page 124. Okay, a little bit characterization, a little bit of more characterization of objectives. We can state that objectives cannot be regarded as fixed. As instruction proceeds, as the teacher proceeds in his teaching in his semester or during his course, we have to revise some, drop some, or add some for addressing gaps. So this is consistent with what we have said earlier. If we realize that our objectives, for instance, are a bit too ambitious or maybe too unrealistic, we have to make some adjustments. And depending also on the course and the class and the students, if they are probably not following, or maybe there is a little bit of a mismatch or a discrepancy between the teaching and the learning, then we have to make a few adjustments. Now, to give you a little bit different perspective, there is a statement of several criticisms to objectives which you can check. And the page range, there's a couple of pages in the book, pages 127 and 128, which you can self-explore at your own convenience. These are some probably articulated criticisms to objectives. Okay. Now, let's look at something different. An alternative to the use of objectives in program planning, language program planning, is to describe learning outcomes in terms of competencies. Okay, so this is slightly different here. Let's look at it. What is this? Competency-based program outcomes. It's called CBLT as an abbreviation. It's a difficult mouthful. Competency-based language teaching, and it seeks to make a focus on the outcomes of learning. So competencies, they differ from other goals or objectives because what's different? They describe the student's ability to apply basic and other skills in situations that are commonly encountered in everyday life, right? So the nature of competencies, they refer to observable behaviors. This is not so different from objectives, but they are necessary for the successful completion of real-world activities. So that is the difference. So these observable behaviors are necessary for the successful completion of real-world activities. And these activities may be related to the field of work and social survival in a new environment. So you think about nurses, doctors, pilots, travel agents. So this is really in the case of ESP and task-based, competency-based, especially language learning and teaching. Here's an example of a competency. For instance, housing from Mrawikshi, 1986. So here are a few competencies that need to be developed. What we need to achieve with the student is to identify common household furniture or rooms. See, this is a specific competency of the learner. We need to accompany them so that they can learn to do that. Or to answer simple questions about basic housing needs. Okay, that's on the checklist, one of the competencies to develop with the learner. Number 3 also can be to ask for simple information about housing including rent, utilities, and date available. Okay, you see, it's pretty obvious, pretty clear, pretty straightforward. Now, this, of course, in addition to the criticisms that were vocalized for objectives, there will be also criticisms of competencies. There's no model that is perfect, we know that. So the group work is one of the issues identified for housing, for instance, which is not really convenient to do. And this is something which I'd like to invite you to do if you'd like to provide me with optional homework, right? I haven't really probably set this for you guys, but if you want, I'm giving you this as something which you can send me as optional homework. There are several criticisms which are listed in the book, ranging from page 131 to 132. So I didn't assign to you any specific criticism, but you can check one. And maybe give me a summary of this criticism. Okay, just choose one, select one of your own choice, and you can send it to me. After your reading, you can put it in your own words to make it explain it to me in your own words in a short paragraph. Okay, that should be enough for optional homework, I would say. All right, so that's pretty much what we have for this week. And if you'd like to explore a little bit further reading, something outside the required material of our textbook, Richard's book, you can actually look at the additional reading, Lee and Van Patten, chapters 2, 7, and 8. But of course, that is optional. And next week, we are going to continue with our syllabi presentations. All right, so feel free to send me an email. And if you have any questions to ask about the lecture, I'll be happy to further clarify the slides for you. Thank you.